want to be off air. Are we on air? I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so supposedly, if you are in the chat room, I cannot see you. We are waiting on Bill. I don't know what's happening. Go to my channel. Do I have a live event going on? I'm live now. I don't know what's happening. There we go. Go to my channel. Do I have a live event going on?
Yay.
Hey! I'm muttering to myself as I put this on Twitter. I don't know what's happening. No, I don't want to reply to Jens. Go to my channel. I should probably mute that. Yeah, that was all of my past thoughts. Dude, I gotta walk through this. This is ridiculous. I don't know what's happening anymore. All right, hang on.
Let's see if I can...
I'm trying to tweet. I know how to tweet. ArchaeoEO. Why isn't it pulling you up? That's weird. To watch America Unearthed live. Come heckle us. So how's it going?
It's getting there. Good days, bad days. So far, it's a good day.
Archaeology. I can't spell ancient. I don't know why I keep trying.
So I actually watched a recent episode of Ancient Aliens yesterday to sort of get myself in the right mental space.
I'm sorry.
Our America Unearthed isn't available like live. They don't care enough to put it on like on demand.
I get mine from other sources that are more reliable.
I understand those sources. I use them for other things. Yes.
Exactly. I don't want to say too much as we are live.
Yes. Even if we're not actually broadcasting yet, or are we broadcasting?
I think we're broadcasting, so everybody will get to see me being a total dumbass at the very beginning.
Oh, sweet.
I know. I try so hard.
Darn it! Now they're all.
And now I'm a dumbass.
Now they're all going to know the secret cabal that us archaeologists are into, where we're trying to hide the information from the public.
Well, you know, Andy White already blew the lid on that, so thanks for that, Andy.
Jeez.
It's a good video, though, actually.
So I was watching Ancient Aliens yesterday, and I did a whole like Twitter thread on it with GIFs all over the place, which is probably why nobody watches it, because there's nothing more obnoxious than an entire thread with nothing but GIFs. But I figured,
yeah.
But I couldn't think of any other way of handling it, because I'm like watching this, and it's about the Dogons, the Doggons, whether or not there's someplace up in the Sirius star system, and I realized soon afterwards the facts didn't matter. What they were trying to sell you was a feeling. Feeling that it's just rapid fire, just bullshit being thrown at you. They make conclusions and they move forward with that, but there's no discussion. There's no time. It's all rapid fire, so there's no time for you to even think about it. It is the epitome of gaslighting. If you ever want to see what gaslighting looks like, watch an episode of Ancient Aliens.
Ooh, that's a really good observation, though, because it really is. Yeah, it really is. And you're probably going to get a lot of that effect on this episode, because this is an episode about the Phoenicians, evidence of Phoenicians in America. And I mean, I know I've gone over it several times. I know the podcast has gone over it several times. So it's like, this has been thoroughly looked at and thoroughly, dismantled, but it's still there. All right, do we have anybody watching us yet? Are we cool enough yet? I don't give a crap. The stupid thing.
Let me retweet this so that
Cheryl's here.
so we can
That's
get it
right.
out there.
These issues with facts. Facts will always let you down, apparently.
Or as I put it yesterday while watching the Ancient Aliens, to reverse some other online moron, feelings don't care about your facts.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it boils down to. All right, well, we're broadcasting. My bangs look like crap, but that's all right. I'm a girl. Nothing ever looks right. This is
My
how
hair is probably sticking above my headset like it normally does.
You have very nice curly hair, though.
I know, but I don't want to get into what's his face's territory.
Let's see. All right, there's my Google Hangout. All right, we are going to watch. Hey, everybody. Sorry for the late start. I am learning things. Again, I have never claimed to be an expert at this, so you should be happy that you have anything. Today, I have with me my good friend, Bill Auchter. Is it Auchter?
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Sweet. So I've got Bill Auchter with me. He is working really hard to launch a brand new, really great archaeology brand that's reaching out to common people. That came out wrong. To the average person who isn't an archaeologist. He's calling it ArchaeoThoughts, and he's also heading up the ArchaeoRPG vlog podcast thing. I don't know what to call them because it's like
I'm currently going with collective, which you're a part of it. It's sort of a group mind thing where eventually, right now, we launched our first thing last week, still digging, which is our random talking show where we just get 4 archaeologists together and just talk stuff. But eventually, we're going to have a lot of play and role-playing games, which will be archaeology in theme.
Yes, the role-playing. Eventually, we will be all of us off our asses and role-playing again. But today, Bill has decided to join me in watching the wonderful America Unearthed. We will be rediscussing Phoenicians in America, which, if you joined us a little earlier, you know, is just, I don't know. I can't wait to see what the new evidence is going to be, because this isn't even the first time that this show's gone after Phoenicians in America. So yeah, I want to see how, I think they did Phoenicians the first season, so this will be like year 3. From the first episode. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what, if anything, new he's dragging up. I always like to speculate before the show starts because, you know, I like to speculate, and then I'll watch the show. And I haven't read anything. I know Jason God damn it, I can't say his name.
Don't worry, I was in the same problem this morning when I looked up his article on them.
Yeah, I haven't read his article yet. Jason Colavito. Haha, got it. And I'll try to remember to put links in the show notes because I'm terrible at show notes. And yeah, so if you want to go read that after you've watched this, yada yada. I'm expecting a bunch of weird crap that has either already been debunked or is something new that he's found that is easily debunked. And then he's going to jump all over the place, find a bunch of unconnected crap, try to pretend like it all leads to each other, even though it's not even connected in the show. And then at the end, he'll say something to the effect of history must change, and somehow it'll all be archaeology's fault. So, you ready?
Let's do this. I haven't really watched any of this stuff since season 1, where I had recently split up, and on a weekend I did a drunk hate watch of the entire first season. I was alone in my apartment. It was a dark time.
That's a rebound for you. Wow.
So we'll see whether or not I get triggered with emotions during this. They most likely will not be related to the show.
Well, I end up yelling at the screen at least once. So, all right. Let's see if my grand plan here works. Phoenicians in America. Click. Let me know if you can see this. We should have tried this first.
All right.
Is it working?
I'm seeing a nice aerial shot of some water.
Can you hear it?
The stories of our past hinges on present day findings.
Can everyone else hear it? Because that's the best I can do.
Chamber is in the middle of nowhere. The landscape hides the unexpected. Do you think the giants built this wall?
No, we are not going to get drunk.
And
it's only noon.
The entrance to the treasure.
I don't know. I want to feel like I want to be drunk soon, though.
Oh God.
The only question I have: where am I going next? history that we were all taught growing
Okay,
up.
so this is already different
My name is Scott
because
Walter, and I'm a forensic.
I do this a lot, by the way.
Okay.
We didn't get the horror movie. You don't get the full experience of the horror movie. And I think that's because originally this episode that they're showing as episode 5 was supposed to be the first episode of the new season. And for some reason they moved it down 5 slots and did shit, I don't even remember what the first episode was anymore. But that's why I think we didn't get the little horror movie at the beginning of the show. I keep looking down at Bill down here, by the way.
They had to make sure they got Jack the Ripper into that sweet, sweet May sweeps month in there, you know.
The hell was that? Anyway, back to the show. Just scream over it. It's fine.
Geologist.
Okay.
It's not like he says
There's a
anything
hidden history
important.
in this country that nobody knows about. There are pyramids here, chambers, tombs, inscriptions. They're all over this country. We're going to investigate these artifacts and sites, and we're going to get to the truth. Sometimes history isn't what we've been told.
They're lying to you, but I am the one who has the answers.
Exactly. Exactly. Just gonna leave this on Bill. There we go. I don't need to see myself.
Okay, we're going to Minnesota and Wyoming, exactly where I think the Phoenicians would be.
Kids have long been taught that the first
Clearly,
European
you don't
to reach
understand
America
how
was
far
Christopher
Phoenicians
Columbus
got.
in 1492.
No, they're
But
not.
that's not true.
No.
We now know the Vikings beat him. But
We've
I think
known
other
that since the
explorers did too,
70s.
centuries earlier. I'm always looking for more definitive proof, and today I'm feeling lucky. I'm heading to Rock Springs, Wyoming, where a husband and wife want to show me a good luck charm that they believe proves the Phoenicians, famous ancient sailors of the Mediterranean, came here to the cowboy state over 1,000 years before Columbus.
So we already have an unsubstantiated artifact that has no context, no provenience, no validity, and it's going to prove Phoenicians in America because we can't even prove that it literally came out of the ground where these people are going to claim it came out of the ground from. So just
we're talking
FYI.
about Phoenicians who were a literate society who would have documented any sort of like travels they might have gone on, bypassing the entire east coast of the United States. See, I was expecting that. I was expecting us to be like a Newfoundland or someplace like that for Phoenicians. This is like even better.
No, that's too much. Too much.
That's too easy. Too easy. That's what you want you to think.
That's exactly it. All right, sorry. I keep screwing around with my windows. Here we go.
They're right. It'll rewrite the history books forever.
I always want to know why
Hi,
it's so
guys.
important to him to
Hi,
rewrite
you
the
must
history
be
books,
Patrice.
though.
And
They're
Doc,
rewritten every year. That's how publishers make money.
so I understand you have an artifact. Can I take a look at it? She's got it with her.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this is awesome. So who found this?
My mom did years ago, like what, 75 years ago.
It's a sandstone for sure. There's definitely carved
Why are you
characters
touching
here.
it
This
with
is
your
definitely
bare
man-made,
hands?
No doubt about that.
My mom, she was 12 years old when she found it. Come upon it, it was something more than just an ordinary rock.
Where was it found? Somewhere up here, right?
It was. I can
Okay.
take you to the general area.
Well, I would like to see roughly where it came from.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Rock Springs is known as the home of 56 nationalities because an influx of immigrants came to work in the coal mines here in the late 1800s. But if this artifact proves the Phoenicians came here 2,000 years ago, they might
Vikings are
have to
always
start
new
calling
to
it the
Scott
home of
Walter.
57. First and foremost, look at the geology.
Yes, look at the geology. The only thing you're qualified to talk about.
The question is, could this rock have come from this area? The answer is yes. This is a sandstone. This is a sandstone.
Good.
Wow.
Look at them.
Would
The
we like to
size
talk
of
about
the
where all
sand grains
sandstone is
in
found
this
throughout the
sandstone
country?
Look very similar. If the carved stone Don's mom found was something other than sandstone, we'd know it could have come from a farm. But because
we
more than
wouldn't,
half
though.
of the exposed
We
rock
wouldn't.
in the Phoenicians' home base, modern-day Lebanon, is sandstone just like this,
Dun, dun,
which is a
dun.
trademark of the city's architecture. I need more evidence to figure out if this rock was carved here in Wyoming or half a world away.
I don't know. You keep touching the goddamn thing. How are you going to figure
Why was your
anything
mother
out?
up
She was.
I don't know. I've seen sandstone like that on the east coast of the United States too.
The
It's
reason
real, right?
was a coal
Nothing
mine
It's
against
common
it.
sandstone.
moved from rural Indiana to Wyoming when she was young. After losing her dad to a freak accident at age 9, Lorene was a kid who could use a lucky break.
She was up here by some water tanks, and she stopped there and just happened to notice it.
What happened next?
Well, she took it home. She had it with her a lot of the time and showed it to a lot of people, but nobody could tell her what it was. She sent pictures of it to the University of Wyoming, and they didn't know what it was. She just always was trying to find out.
She was curious.
She was very curious.
So.
Did she go to anyone else?
She sent a copy of the picture to the Smithsonian. They sent a letter back saying it's really nothing. They didn't want anything to do with it, basically.
Damn Smithsonian.
And so she got mad and threw the letter away.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. The Smithsonian doesn't particularly care for anybody who brings something forward that might change the historical narrative.
Yes, Scott.
Besides
The entire museum
anybody else
of the Smithsonian has nothing in it
Yes.
that challenges
Here's the letter from
thoughts
Dr.
of
Barry Fell,
prehistory.
who was immediately able to identify and translate the script.
Wait,
Barry
did she just say
Fell,
that's
he
from
was
the Barry
scholar
Fell?
from Harvard. He was one of the first guys to come out who was an academic to say that, yes,
He
there were
wasn't.
people that came here long before Columbus. In fact, people have been coming here for thousands of years.
It mentions Phoenician people in there.
The way he explained it is it starts and goes.
Barry Fell loves Phoenicians, and Barry Fell loves saying that Europeans made it to America. Barry Fell can find ancient foreign languages in any kind of scraping. It has been proven because he was given rocks that are known to have plow scars on them, like the lines were known plow scars, and he still managed to translate them into something.
So I'm trying to think, right, and my times might be off here, but like late 19th, early 20th century, and sort of the American religious revival period, sort of those big tent revivals and things like that, falling back on like Phoenicians as sort of like a almost sort of fetish item seems to be, wasn't that popular during that time period? Like the context of like something that would have been found 75. I mean, I was off the top of my head, you know, I figured with this show, you know, going off the top of your head as accurate as anyone's doing around here.
You just pull it out of your ass and you're just like, oh yes, it's factual. There we go.
It goes vertically first, start at the top, and do an S shape on the way
not
down.
how
And here's the
Phoenicians write.
translation. Keep safe. Do not break the stone. Misfortune, it turns away. It protects against evil, strikes harm, and turns it aside.
Stone's broken.
Should we point out that there's 12 characters on that rock? 12.
Oh.
12 individual characters, and he got a paragraph translated out of that.
No, the Phoenicians were merchant
And we
sailors.
never had a side-by-side to confirm that that's
Oh, yeah,
what
no.
was written on the one he's holding.
Their
No,
neighbors,
no.
The Egyptians and the Greeks.
He
And
does not
Herodotus,
like to do
known
that
as the
because then
world's
it's
first
too
historian,
easy.
wrote about the Phoenicians' claim to have circumnavigated Africa. Maybe a Phoenician sailor left behind an inscribed rock that later became Lorene Boland's good luck charm. I'm open to the idea
But that
because
doesn't
of
look like
everything I
Phoenician.
know about the Phoenicians. Basically, what
Oh yes,
Barry
I
Fell
forgot.
is saying
Scott's
is
an
that this
expert
is an
in the
amulet
Phoenicians.
or a good luck charm, something to keep bad spirits away. Does that make sense?
We think so.
It does with my mom's life, yeah.
With your mom's life, what do you mean by that?
There was a time when she went to Jackpot, Nevada. She was down to her last couple of quarters, put him in a slot machine, and won $48,000.
She hit it big.
Never happened to anyone ever.
She attributed it to
Well,
this good
only
luck
if you
charm.
have a Phoenician good luck charm
I
in your
think in a
pocket.
lot of ways she did.
This isn't the first time
A
I've
broken
investigated the
Phoenician
Also,
possibility.
it's
really-
broken.
Broken.
A while back, I met a professor in New England who theorized there was a map of the world hidden on the back
Oh, yeah, I
of a
remember that
Phoenician
guy.
coin minted in 350 BC. The question is, could the Phoenicians have gotten here and carved that stone? The oceans and rivers were not barriers like many people think. I mean, they were highways, super highways, especially going back thousands of years. I've seen evidence of pre-Columbian
It's only
contact
until recently
all
that
over
they've
the
become
Americas.
dangerous to traverse.
Ancient mariners like the Vikings, the early Irish, and the Polynesians left behind rock formations, language, and canoe building technology. In the case of the Polynesians, They even brought back foods like the sweet potato.
I don't
Now,
think that's
there's a
true.
little more that I'd like to do with
I think
the stone.
that's been
I've got a microscope. Is it
re-examined
okay
and
if we
is
take a
not
look?
accurate.
Let's do it. All right. Awesome.
No. They just had an episode about it, so it becomes truth. They build
It
upon
must
their
be
own
true,
truth.
right?
Evidence of erosion can help me date
Ah,
artifacts
yes,
like
this
this.
good old
we go.
erosion trick.
That's coming up pretty good there. You can see the carved lines. Focus.
It's sandstone. It's at least 75 years old. It's been carried around in someone's pocket, passed around hand to hand. It's sandstone. Yeah, it's going to be weathered.
It erodes.
I know, that's funny. Ah, God.
So just a little bit there.
Go to the cemeteries. You'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm seeing something I don't like. Has somebody messed with this at all or done something?
Bum, bum, bum. That woman had the guiltiest look I've ever seen on someone's face.
Is this where he attempts to sort of partially debunk something to give him greater strength when he brings another piece of evidence later?
Yeah, but he always, like, you know, he debunks it and then he's always like, but there's another reason why it could be like that. It's like, this looks fake, but there might be another reason. And then he just continues to run with it.
I see something here I don't like. Has somebody been messing with this?
Look at her face. Oh my God.
Naive. Tried to get a picture of it and it didn't show up very well, so she took a nail to it.
So she recut the carvings.
She went in deeper so it would photograph better.
If someone scratches over old marks, they might as well be fresh ones. She was trying to be helpful, but unfortunately for me, a lot of the evidence
might be fresh. So they might be fresh marks. So they're fresh marks.
But he's already covered his butt here. Oh, she was just trying to be helpful, which I'm sure, you know, whatever. I don't know this woman, so whatever. Right. But also, we just have an admittance that this has been doctored. So anyway.
Most helpful in aging this would be in the grooves. And if she scratched it out, that evidence is gone. Since Lorene ran a nail across the original inscription, there's no way to see the natural weathering and no microorganisms left inside for me to date. When someone uses something sharp to clean out an inscription,
would there have been anyway
no
if she'd been carrying around in her pocket for 75 years?
The edges of the inscription were, meaning there's no way to evaluate how long ago it was carved. You know, this is unfortunate, but I think I have a plan, another way that we can get to the bottom of this.
So we walk off and go find the next piece of evidence.
Pretty much, yeah.
I won't be able to.
Yay, Scott driving. We don't get enough of that.
But I know of a secret Shoshone site here in Wyoming that might support Phoenician contact with this area.
A secret Shoshone site. So let's go put it on camera. I knew he was going to do the undisclosed location thing.
Well, Linnea, I just recently looked at an artifact that has been interpreted to be Phoenician script. The reason I'm here is to see if this site potentially has a connection to the Phoenicians coming here to the New World.
If there is a connection, we can look for it right here.
Ooh, they love that drone, don't they?
They do.
Legend called,
to be fair, they get some really
nice
nice
woman on this stone outcrop in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me what you think you're seeing here?
This one here looks like a female. Am I right about that?
Mm-hmm. She's a ghost, and she lives in the water, so she's called the water ghost woman.
Okay.
The Eastern Shoshone, who lived around here, this is an important figure in their belief system. She's depicted as either very beautiful and young, or as a hideous old hag, and she can go from one to the other rapidly.
Ah, are those tears?
You can very plainly see the tear streaks on her face. When you hear her crying, you feel sorry for her and you want to help.
Sure.
So you approach the sound of this crying woman, and the next thing you know, you've been drowned.
This legend is eerily similar to that of the sirens, characters from Greek mythology the Phoenicians believed in. The sirens were dangerous creatures whose enchanting songs drew unsuspecting sailors to shipwreck.
Because no two
Maybe
cultures would ever
this
have a
indicates
similar
that there
sounding
was some
myth.
type
What?
of conflict
The
between
Sorrow Woman? We just had a movie about that a couple weeks ago.
It does, but how would they have gotten here? Well, if they sail across the Atlantic Ocean, they could come into the Gulf, sail up the Mississippi, then they could have taken either the Arkansas River or the Platte River.
But why?
Not too far to the east here, and it would put you right into this area. How old do you think these petroglyphs are?
Leaving no artifacts along the way, leaving no signs that they were ever there. And, you know, once you go to New Orleans, why would you ever want to leave?
I just like how he just like rambles it off as if it's just like, oh, no big deal. They just traversed half the continent for no fucking reason.
I was waiting until we got there, but once we got there and our expert and stuff like that, I'm like going, if there were only Shoshone they could be talking to who could actually interpret the Shoshone culture and Shoshone place. So my guess is that the secret Shoshone location is probably just an archaeological site, which is not mapped for protection of the site.
Oh, no. It's probably mapped.
I mean, mapped in like the SHPO's office.
No, I mean, it's probably actually on a map. He loves to do this undisclosed location bullshit. And then
even worse than that.
Yeah, he did that for the Meadowcroft site.
Oh, I mean, where you can actually go and do museum tours and buy, you know.
Yeah. He likes to be like, oh, it's mysterious. And it's like, I know exactly where you are. Like, he loves to do that. And I was trying to look this woman up and I can't Google fast enough. But again, I haven't had a chance to verify anything in these shows.
That's the longer. That's the long. This is the reaction.
Yeah, exactly. But
we're off the cuff. There'll be a longer. I'm sure you'll do an article later, or podcast, or something.
It's not like I haven't done at least 4 of these
right
on the Phoenicians already. No, but it's just like you were saying. Like Walter does this all the time too. He'll do the whole like. Oh, I'm talking to a Native American expert, and it's not actually somebody from the tribes. It's always an outsider, which is not a bad way to go. It's just the Shoshone are alive. They're federally recognized tribes. You're probably on Shoshone reservation land right now or near it. You could just go talk to somebody and ask them about their own history and heritage and get answers directly from them. But I don't think Walter's ever interviewed an actual, like, tribally affiliated Native American on this show, like, ever in 4 years. With the exception of the Mayanist guy from, like, the first season, who he just proceeded to steamroll and tell him how wrong he is about his own culture. That was an entertaining clip. But, yeah, anyway, back to the show.
I mean, the idea of the weeping woman is an old trope. I mean, it's more than just the Greeks who I love how he just assumes Greeks and Phoenicians as a single culture.
Right,
the Phoenicians are a Semitic culture separate from. They did interact with the Greeks, but they're separate people with a separate mythology.
No.
I mean,
they're all from that area over there. They're all the same people.
Well, yeah. But I mean, heck, even up to Picasso's Weeping Woman, which is a pretty nice painting. I mean, it's an old trope.
Most cultures have some kind of crying spirit,
Right.
Yeah, he goes and onto the banshees, but it's just like, yeah, but there's the Hispanic Weeping Woman or the Latino Weeping Woman myth, Hell,
I mean, what's more? What's more powerful than like the grieving mother as a trope of like true anguish? Yeah. You don't need to travel halfway across the world to connect them together.
Yeah. All right. We're only 12 minutes into the show.
Within the last maybe a little bit older, maybe 3,000 years from now.
2,000 to 3,000.
That's an educated guess.
Well, I like those numbers. I like those numbers a lot because if we are going to make the argument that the Phoenicians could possibly be connected here, you got to go back at least 2,000 years, and 2,000 to 3,000 years would.
I don't think she was expecting that Phoenician connection there.
It does make sense. Doesn't prove it,
right?
But I really like those numbers.
Right.
I know that deer in the headlights look.
Yeah,
I was doing a podcast interview once with somebody who went right to Salutrians, and I had to sit there and do the deer in the headlights look at them.
Genuine Phoenician good luck charm.
Yeah, I like watching people react to him.
I need to figure out if the Phoenicians were even capable of sailing to America in the first place.
I mean,
He's asking all the wrong questions.
really?
It's almost like it's deliberately asking all the wrong questions. So let's go to England.
I nail
need to
head.
see a Phoenician boat, and there's only one good seaworthy example in the entire world.
Only one. And it's that ship right there.
Right.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I love when people recreate these things. They're so neat.
It's a wonderful thing. I love experimental archaeology. I love going back to past technology. But the question of could and did are huge. There's a huge gap between those two.
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty impressive. Tell me a little bit
I
about
am
this ship.
sort of paying attention to the chat,
Well,
just
she's a
for the
great
two people
chef.
who are in the chat.
Oh, please pass anything along. I'm not watching it.
Seagoing ship. And it
Just
was
a
built
patient.
as near as possible as an exact replica as one could possibly have.
What are some of the features here that are unique to the Phoenician shipbuilders?
The Phoenicians created the first rigid-hulled boats. Up until that point, the ships had literally been sewn together.
So this stiff design was to withstand the large waves on the oceans, right?
That's it. That's what enabled the Phoenicians to trade more successfully.
I thought when we were discussing Vikings that the thing that made the Viking ships so freaking amazing was the fact that they're slat built, which meant that they're nailed together, but the wood can expand and contract as it gets wet and dry, which allows it to be flexible on the water, which is what allowed them to get across the ocean. But now we're talking that the Phoenicians' big shtick was they have these rigid hulled boats which don't move, and somehow that is what allowed them to get across the ocean. Keeping in mind, we have no Phoenician boats in America, and we only have one confirmed Viking site in America. So, like, my guess is the Vikings were better at this than the Venetians were.
I see. You're wrong.
The
I'm wrong.
Phoenicians brought the Phoenicians.
There. Done.
And the most famous trade item, a dye known as Tyrian purple, named after Tyre, one of their 4 Mediterranean kingdoms. More valuable than gold, it started the tradition of royals wearing purple robes and earned the Phoenicians the name the Purple People.
Were they the purple people eaters?
I hope so.
Oh, neat. They put little,
Yeah, all done by hand. What's really impressive,
they got the
is
vessels
these
in there too.
little dowel marks there that you can see. Yep, the Romans called it the Phoenician joint. And I've got a little model of it here. So here are the 2 planks. This is the peg. And these are the dowels that are locking it in place. So it's a really rigid construction.
Watertight joint right here, right?
And then not only that, but the Phoenicians did one better. They were the first to use iron nails in the construction. So this was what helped make the Phoenician ships undoubtedly the strongest ships ever produced at that time.
Ooh, that's good to know, because iron nails means there would be artifacts.
Right, exactly.
We're gonna find iron nails then.
Sure.
Sure we are.
Finding 2,000-year-old iron nails in North America would be a big deal.
So, one sail.
So come on, show us the iron nails in North America.
A little skeptical that a ship could navigate the open oceans with one sail.
Certainly one sail makes sailing, a real challenge. However, the Phoenicians were clever people. They knew which way the winds and currents were blowing.
They were
The
psychic.
open ocean would have presented no fears.
There's good reason to believe they circumnavigated Africa. They made a statement that as they sailed, they had the sun on their right to northward of them. That's only possible if they rounded the Cape of Good Hope while heading west, which no one had ever done before.
Okay,
Then, in
that's
1990,
Africa.
in Senegal, the most western point in Africa, French anthropologists studied 14 unfamiliar letters found on cattle brands and determined the closest match was Phoenician. Not Greek, Latin, Chinese, or any African language, but Phoenician.
Or
Taken
they're
this
cattle
out in the
brands.
open ocean.
We've been around some of the toughest points,
So
like getting
cattle
around
brands by nations who have been influenced by Islam, another Semitic people. But, you know.
700 miles from the Florida coast. So we spent 80 odd days in the Atlantic.
Okay, if you got within 700
But
miles
even
of
if they
Florida,
were
how
able
many
to
days
circumvent
if you wanted to go to
Africa,
Florida
that's
would it take?
Africa.
It would have taken another 10 or 12 days to get to America from there.
Well, Philip, I'm very impressed, and you pretty much answered all my questions. But let me
So
ask.
even this experimental boat didn't quite make it to America. It was about 700 miles away from America.
Right.
But they could have.
They didn't cross
And
the
that's
actual ocean. They just recreated the sailing around Africa thing. Which is cool. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it's cool. No. It makes me want to know more about nations and their technologies.
Right, exactly.
But it does nothing to help me with the idea that they could wherever in America.
Phoenicians made it to North America?
Yeah, I believe that they did make it there. They had the ability, they had the means, and undoubtedly they had the ships that could have done it. What we need to find is the proof.
I have a hunch. The key to this mystery lies in what the Phoenicians brought back from their voyages.
Because clearly they didn't leave anything.
Circumnavigating Africa, they would have been trading vessels.
Right, so they were carrying big
So
loads.
they're going to have North American artifacts.
They were certainly
in
the East. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, that would be
Historians
helpful.
struggle to explain all the copper used in Europe's
Oh
Bronze
God, he's
Age
doing the
cave.
copper.
Oh, we're doing the copper again.
Could the Phoenicians have brought it back with them from Wyoming, where copper mining was once big business?
So apparently
that wasn't Wyoming, was it? Isn't that? Oh, that's why we're going to Minnesota.
Yeah, instead of stealing it from Minnesota, now we're stealing it from Wyoming, apparently.
I do remember that from earlier on. The whole somehow all the copper was taken from North America, and that supplied all the copper for the Mediterranean world.
Yeah, if they were getting that much copper out of Minnesota, why are they going to Wyoming? Clearly, they had enough.
And if so, how far?
A ship like this could certainly navigate up a river quite a long way. I've always believed that science one day will prove that the Phoenicians got to America.
I mean,
well, you and I are on the same
science
page
doesn't
there.
really need to. We just need the archaeology, which we don't have.
And why is he still wearing his backpack while he's on camera? I mean, there's so entire.
It's like his
you just put it on the ground. You don't have to wear your backpack, dude.
Someone might pee on it.
Now I have no doubt the Phoenicians could have sailed to North America and through rivers in
they could have. What the hedgiest words thing I've ever heard.
Next level.
That's good enough as solid evidence for him.
Check out an old copper
You know what? I'm almost positive that this guy could be 100% full of shit.
The representative was made of copper.
Be careful, you don't want to slander.
I didn't. I could be.
You're right.
Possibly.
I'm not saying
Maybe.
I'm
not saying he is. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying it could be possible.
In my mind, strong motivation would have been copper. But I want to investigate.
Why would they even know that there was copper here?
To really bring some
Well,
strong.
because the Phoenicians used copper.
If I can find some
But
copper,
they
there
had
was never
copper
any-
there. They didn't need to come here to get copper.
create bronze.
There was no copper in the Levant,
I have to get
Southern
them.
Europe,
And that's
or
not
Northern Africa. Ever.
Why?
because of the mining industry, both past and present. Wyoming is crisscrossed with rugged roads used to haul everything from coal to gems and metals, like the copper I'm going to find.
The truck manufacturer didn't sponsor this for those rugged commercial shots he just did there.
We watch this man drive more than we watch anything else on this show.
And look at these ruins here.
Well, this is the Ferris Haggerty mine. They discovered copper here in 1897. It caused this entire area to absolutely boom. Over 5,000 people migrated to this area for the copper mining boom.
If this was such a booming heyday at one time, copper everywhere, what happened?
around 1908, copper prices plunge. They
Probably because there was
absolutely
so much
plunge.
copper.
On top of that, there were a series of fires at the smelter. And so it becomes very difficult to keep the profits going.
Well, actually, that makes a lot of sense. You know, it was like a perfect storm
Well,
of
actually.
bad luck. What I'd like to do is see if we can find a good piece of native copper or a rock that has native copper in it, and I'd like to test it with some copper that we know came from Europe that's associated with the Phoenicians, because we can look for trace elements in both pieces.
So what I want to find is a piece of native unworked, unsmelted copper, and I want to compare it to a piece of purified, worked, shaped copper from Europe. And somehow I will be able to tell you that the two of those pieces are exactly the same.
And there is no possible way to get a properly convenienced, worked piece of copper object made in America with North American copper that you could easily compare to a known sourced, European or Levant sourced copper and be able to, test their XRF signatures or things like that.
No, can't do that. Stop that with your crazy talk.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make this sound scientific. I will go back into my corner.
Go back to your logic corner. We don't need you here.
The copper here is going to have its own DNA fingerprint. If we can
It's
get
not
a match,
DNA.
well, now we're cooking with gas. The guy who finds the best piece buys the beer.
Deal.
All right, man. Let's go.
But where's his backpack? He's actually outside now, where you might want to have a backpack.
Dude, he can't get his backpack dirty.
Verdigris. That's the color you get when copper is weathered and exposed to air or seawater over time. All the copper in this mine will have the same purity.
Patina.
But I'm looking
you want
for
the
a
word
piece with a
patina?
solid copper vein running through it that's big enough to test. See all this stuff?
Yep.
And this is the stuff I wanted to see. What it tells you is there's definitely copper here, so it's obviously it's coming out of the water.
Yeah.
My goal is to connect the dots from Lorene Boland's good luck charm to the Phoenicians.
How
who
are you
may
going to
have carved
connect the
it
dots
to
to
the
that?
copper they may have come to Wyoming to mine. Once
Not
I
only do
find
you
out
know where it came from, you don't. You know
I'll
it's
test
been
it to see if it
altered.
has the same
Also, you
element.
don't make a discovery at a known copper mine. You're going to find trace elements of copper at a known copper mine.
I know you could easily just test the water.
Brought this copper back home. So this
I don't know
is one
why
of the
he
main
thinks he needs a
shafts
giant
also.
piece of it.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's more
Bad
photogenic.
Keep out.
Yep.
Skull and crossbones.
Ooh.
I'm not going near there.
I'm not going in there either. Clearly the water's flowing out and it's coloring the
Sissy.
rock. There's got to be some copper specimens here.
Archaeologists would go in there.
That's
There's
true.
some.
That's true.
Most copper.
I got a
is not gonna
handkerchief,
be
I'm
visible,
good.
right?
That's right.
He pulled the
Oh,
loop
yeah,
out.
I can see it. If you look close, you can see it with the naked
That's got to be
eye.
the smallest one there. I could probably in 10 minutes find a much bigger piece than that.
You just gotta go in the mine.
It's yours.
It's just warning you. It's
Sure.
not really like
Remember what
telling
I shared
you.
about the guy who finds
Can I keep it? Is this guy the owner of the land? We didn't ever establish that.
No.
It's a mine.
Either
We don't
way,
know who
we
owns
both
it.
Okay, sounds good.
Right, because I think he kind of asked the guy if he can keep it, and he's like, yeah, sure.
He might be the owner.
He might be.
He's
We
usually
don't know
pretty
that.
good about that. Yeah, but they didn't establish that as far as I know.
Yeah.
Oh, he named his lab.
What I need to do next is figure out if the copper in this sample from Wyoming matches the purity of the copper found.
So he
in
did film all of
Phoenician
these in the
artifacts.
winter.
And I'm back in Minnesota to do just that. If it has the same elemental fingerprint, then I'll have even more reason to believe the Phoenicians made it to America.
Wouldn't all copper have a similar? I mean, I know you can break it down because I know that they did they tested God, not topaz. What's the green semi-precious?
Yeah, between like XRF and a spectrometer, you can find like trace element. There's going to be impurities, and that's why it would be better to test the raw, both compared to both raws, because you want to compare the impurities from both of those, because that is going to be more unique to the area you're in. Is the impurities that are going to be included. So comparing a purified versus a raw one,
Yeah,
not ideal conditions. And like There's no way to get a similar unpure piece of copper from.
There's copper mines over in Europe. Why don't you just ask them to send you a sample or something? I'm sure they would.
Come on, this would make it interesting. Go to like Syria and get a piece.
They probably couldn't afford to
Or
send
Lebanon.
Copper back home.
Oh, Lebanon. Yeah, can you see that man in
Left behind
Lebanon?
The inscription,
Well, you know, that's the center of the Phoenician world, isn't it?
You can't go to Lebanon.
Lori, the reason I'm here.
Lebanon's better than Syria nowadays.
Recently at a copper mine in Wyoming, and I
I
collected.
don't even want to
sample,
think about that.
and
He'd
what I'd
never
like
make it
you to
home.
help me for
See,
trace
indoors backpack.
We're going to be able to image
You
it
know,
and get it.
now that you've mentioned that, I'm gonna look for it every time.
came to North America over 2,000
Look at her
years
trying
ago.
to not just
Yeah,
like roll
its
her
trace
eyes at
element
him.
Profile,
It's like, yeah, just let me test this.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, look at
that
her.
will go a long way to proving that the Phoenicians came to North America, collected copper, and then brought it back. Sound like something we can do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got the
She's
sample
like,
right
just
here.
shut up and give me
One
the
concern
thing.
that I've got between extracting this and everybody looking at it, handling it, that the surface could be contaminated. So it might be better if we can get a fresh cleave off of this to have a pristine surface to analyze.
Well, it's certainly been handled, so I understand.
So he didn't have pure collection techniques?
Possibility. Let's take a
You
look.
would think a forensic geologist would understand.
We have a fracture right here.
Oh, perfect.
She
Actually,
says,
we have a
I
crack
need a
that
clean
goes
sample.
all
Oh,
the
here, let
way
me touch it
around.
some more for
If
you.
we pop this thing with your chisel and hammer,
Put some gloves
bet
on you.
we'll probably be able to get 2 pieces.
But
Okay.
you're not.
Well, at least he put some
There he
gloves
goes.
on.
Which he should have done in the field if he had his backpack with him.
If he gave it,
Yeah.
if he actually cared about getting samples, yeah. Dun, dun,
Perfect.
dun.
Now we have 2 uncontaminated surfaces to examine.
No.
So we fire up the scanning electron microscope
So?
to take a close look. It magnifies what we're seeing 10,000 times.
So we've got the sample here,
Okay.
and we'll get this in the instrument.
I like that the show does show some science every now and then,
There's an
but I don't
electron
like that it's
beam
been
that's going
twisted.
to be striking the surface of the sample, and that's what we're actually using to detect the elemental composition.
So
of
is
the
that just a
sample.
giant
So
XRF
you're going to
thing?
be hitting it with electrons, and it will record those and give us the quantity, right?
Yes,
I
perfect.
think so, or a spectrometer.
Oh, okay.
We need,
Yeah.
We're
we need
going
better scientists than us for that.
with an electron beam. When that happens,
Electron
elements
beam.
will fly
It
off.
also looks like an electron microscope, too.
I think it
catch
is.
those pieces and analyze them. That's
Yeah,
how we
it's
figure out
a
exactly
scanning
what this
electron
rock is made
microscope.
of.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're looking for a fleck of copper to zoom in on. That's a nice shot. Can we grab that photo?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Could you not tell
As
this woman
rocks
how to
go.
do her job?
Yeah.
Now that we're zeroed
Jesus
in,
Christ.
we can see what this rock is made of.
You can see things are moving and glowing a little bit. So the heavier the element, the brighter it'll appear on the screen. So copper on this should appear somewhat brighter. This brightest region here might be the area of interest. So let's take a scan.
Yeah, let's zoom in there and see what we get.
Thanks for repeating what you just said.
Yeah.
I did it in man voice.
Yes.
That makes all the difference.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're only a half hour in.
But it's only 14 minutes left. So
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Are you really?
Well, now I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Now
tell
I am.
you something important.
Ah, very interesting.
Are you getting a pretty strong peak for copper?
It's fairly strong, but equally as strong with iron.
Okay, so those are in there together.
I know, it looks like a
Copper,
face.
Iron, sulfur, silicon, aluminum, magnesium.
Okay.
So
My
quartz.
sample isn't pure copper, and neither is the rest of the copper at the Ferris Haggerty mine. It doesn't even come close. So we're talking 41, almost 42% copper. It has lots of copper in it, but it has lots of other stuff.
So you'd have to
Unfortunately, Lori,
purify it
that's
to
just
get the
not gonna
copper
do
out
it.
of
That
it.
is not a high enough concentration because the samples that I wanted to compare it with were 98 and 99% pure copper. We're a long way from that. I did a little more digging and found out there aren't any ultra pure copper deposits in Wyoming or anywhere else in the U.S. except for Michigan's Upper Peninsula. A few years back, I investigated the perplexing mine pits in the
They're
Great
not
Lakes region.
perplexing.
Someone pulled copper out of there. And
Somebody.
the
Native
results
Americans.
then, who did it? I gave
the Native
credit to the
Americans.
Minoans, an earlier sailing culture who disappeared mysteriously from the island of Crete in 1200 BC.
And
Now,
also
I
managed to
feel
leave no
strongly
trace.
that Phoenicians went to the Great Lakes too. The copper in Wyoming wouldn't have satisfied them. That's not anywhere near what I think. The
Okay, so there's
Phoenicians
no
would be
Phoenicians in
looking for
Wyoming
back
because the
then.
copper is not
If
good
they
enough.
came up to this part,
So let's pull the documents where the Phoenicians got all of their copper from the Minoans.
area, you're going to find copper that after the glaciers had melted away was just laying on the ground. 99+% pure copper.
She just
And
wants
to
him to
me,
leave
that would
now.
make a heck of a lot more
You would
sense.
think a geologist would be able to know from sight if a
Smell,
piece of 99% copper, like
expensive,
I've picked up like something that's like, 70-80% iron
it would go for
versus an iron alloy rock
this copper.
concretion, and you can clearly see the difference if you're looking for numbers that big. Like,
I would think copper would stand out a little bit better too. I mean,
I am trying not to question his judgment. He is the expert in the field. I
Is
am suspicious. Well, he is a geologist. He says so. He's got the title forensic geologist under his name.
I mean, I could be a forensic archaeologist too, but
ooh, there we go. Here,
I mean,
put that here. Make a tag and put under your name or something.
I have the training. I'm just like,
you just need to put that. You need to put a name tag under a video, and that's all you need.
We're just going to be. We'll just both be forensic archaeologists for the show.
Yeah,
right.
But yeah, once again, it goes back to my suspicion that maybe he kind of knows these things are going to answer in the way they're going to answer or something.
Well, I mean, I know this show is presented out of order of the way it was filmed.
Right.
So yeah, I wonder how much of how often he's filming a revelation that he already knows, and he's trying to play act it up. I also know that there's multiple takes to these, so I'm sure like some of these people that he's talking to are just partially done with him because they're tired of doing takes, and he's crazy. So
also, when it comes to the editing process, there's a with the producers, there's a story being told here.
Right.
And the story has certain beats, and there's a narrative, and there's a narrative flow. There's discovery. There's the middle part where we're trying to figure everything out. And thankfully, in the last 10 minutes, we come to a grand conclusion. This is basically a procedural show. It's Murder, She Wrote with rocks.
Yeah, you're right. I never put that together exactly.
This doesn't prove that the Phoenicians didn't come to Wyoming. It just doesn't help our case.
It also doesn't prove that I didn't go to Wyoming.
Oh, didn't you?
I haven't been there yet.
I've been several times. I just don't leave any trace when I go.
I haven't been, but you can't prove that I haven't been.
Exactly. You can't prove that I haven't.
Pure enough for the Phoenicians to bother them. That doesn't mean
he's got his backpack on outside.
Or that
but he's in the city.
Find an authentic Phoenician artifact. My new theory, that the Minoans handed copper and their knowledge of the New World to their neighbors, the Phoenicians. It's a pretty narrow window. The Minoans vanish around 1200
BC. They
don't
vanish.
And that's when Phoenician script first appears. Still, the ancients knew a lot, more than we give them credit for. Sometimes knowledge gets lost over time. That's why I'm going to check out the map collection at the world-class library here.
I forgot about the gold being
Minneapolis.
taken.
They have an ancient map that I think has a hidden detail to help prove the Phoenicians came here long before Columbus. Hello, Marguerite.
Everything's in Minnesota.
Yep. Welcome to the James Ford Bell Library.
Well, thank you. I understand that you have some of the oldest surviving maps in the world. Is that true?
That's true. The Bell Library has more than 40,000 items dating back to the year 400.
Amazing. What I'm specifically looking for is a copy of Claudius Ptolemy's Geographia.
I pulled two from the late 15th century for you, so let's go take a look.
So we're now talking over 1,000 to 1,500 years
Greco-Roman
after the date he's looking at.
for creating an atlas.
He's really bad at math.
Geographia.
This is a Ptolemy atlas printed in 1490.
If this is late 15th century, Ptolemy lived back in the 2nd century, right?
That's correct.
Wow. Look at that. So this is over 500 years old.
It is. And
it's amazing. It's amazing, but I have to admit, it barely resembles a world map of today, and I can't tell what I'm looking at.
This one
No
is only a few
kidding.
years later. It's
Why are they not wearing gloves? That makes me question it's genuine.
I
What am
think
I
those are
looking at?
reproductions.
This
I
is
don't
the
think those
known
are the
world.
real.
the
Yeah, because you would be wearing light gloves at this point.
that
Yeah, no.
the ocean goes in further. So that's the extent of the known world.
I
as
also
far as
don't
these
think
are
they'd
concerned.
roll out
There are
the
only
actual
3
maps for
continents
him.
on Ptolemy's map: Europe, Africa, and Asia.
Yeah.
And they are a total different shape than you'd expect. Compared to a modern day map, countries like Italy look horizontal. But why?
Mhm.
But
He
why?
actually calculated the circumference of the Earth too small. And then to make his theory work, Ptolemy sort of fudged the way he fit things in so that he can get
Fudging the data to fit your
in the 2
hypothesis.
points
You think this is easy? Let's see if it registers on him.
limits of the known world.
Not long ago, an Italian researcher
Nope,
named
went right over his head.
made a startling claim that this map actually does show more of the world than anyone ever considered.
Anyone
And that's
ever
what
considered.
I came here to see. What I'm interested in now
See,
is
that's
looking
his
here
thing.
at these islands.
Okay, so it's important that we know that Ptolemy made it too small, because now that we know that the map is too small, now he can squeeze America onto the map.
Right, but we also then he conveniently forgets the point that I give her full credit for this, for sneaking this in. I call it good academic shade there of pointing out that Ptolemy fudged his data to fit his existing hypothesis by altering the shape of some of the lands and so forth.
Yeah, but we're just
that part like zoomed over his head.
Yep. Yeah, no, people get pretty creative when they're with him.
So I give her full props for that, for doing that on there. That is bravo.
Well done.
It's right here.
So those are labeled the Fortunate Islands, which we believe Ptolemy meant the Canary Islands.
But we don't know that for sure, right?
We don't.
Taking into account Ptolemy's mistake in
Except
his
I think one of
latitude
them's literally
calculation,
called Canary.
Geo-Russo deduced.
And we do have a system of islands off the northeast coast, off the northwest coast of Africa.
Long belief.
We can't twist
But
those around
actually,
and make
the
them
Lesser
Canary
Antilles,
Islands.
islands like Dominica, St. Lucia, and Trinidad in the New World. Russo says that they are the Antilles.
He's arguing that these aren't the Canaries, that these are actually the Antilles that Ptolemy just puts way too close to the continent. If these are really
more Canary Islands, which really exist, and goes to the Antilles, which are over there.
Yeah, don't they like come off of Florida?
Oh no, they're off the northeast coast of South, so off of like Guyana and Venezuela.
Oh wow, okay.
Or south of Cuba and south of Puerto Rico.
Oh, there you go. See, I have no clue about this stuff, so.
discovered them and communicated that information back to ancient Greece.
Somebody had to have been there.
Somebody had to have been there.
Somebody knew about the New World.
I like how they
going
cut her
back
off
to
before
Ptolemy's
she said
time
whatever it was she was going to
Probably
say.
before.
And really, the only candidate we have, the most logical candidate, would have to be the Phoenicians.
Well, it would have to be.
Huh? What?
Exactly. Why? Because I said so. Okay.
But I thought it would have been the Minoans or the Malians
Chelsea
or Celtics or the Egyptians or.
If so, they had to get here.
I love how there's no logic to the series.
An ancient Greek
I love that you can find logic.
Ptolemy suggests they made more than 2,000 years ago on a ship like the one Philip Beale recreated.
I mean, good for Philip Beale. It's a neat ship, but
No, and once again, as a piece of experimental archaeology, I think it's very cool.
yeah.
I'm on my way to Wyoming to follow up on one last thing that could tell me whether Lorene Boland's artifact is the proof.
Oh, that's pretty.
Ooh, that's a pretty shot, though.
That was a nice
Translation
shot.
from 1982 suggested it said, "Keep safe, do not break the stone. Misfortune, it turns away. It protects against evil, strikes harm, and turns it aside."
How the hell did
But
he
I think
get
I need
that?
a present-day scholar to weigh in. Someone who has the benefit of more knowledge that's been collected about the culture and the language. Well, Brian, help me understand Phoenician script a little bit. It's safe to say at a minimum that the Phoenicians had a very heavy influence on the development of written language, right?
The alphabet is one of the great cultural achievements in all of world history, period. And the Phoenicians played a massive role in making that work.
Before the Phoenicians, cultures in the Mediterranean were used.
Well, but that font was
There's your
unfortunate.
Phoenician alphabet.
It made it hard to
I'm caught up, Dr. Dork. I'm first Dr. Doak, but the font just
letters based on
I think it's Doak.
in the 12th century.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but I'm 12, so
Yeah,
I saw
I know.
Dr. Dork, and
I did
I'm
this.
sorry, Dr. Doak. It's nothing. I am a juvenile.
I'm 5. I'm sure he didn't get any of that growing up.
I know, and it's the font. Font did not do him any favors.
No, the font's a little hard sometimes.
Which they encouraged other cultures to adopt and which inspired
It's not the
our
Phoenician
alphabet today.
They can't be credited with inventing the alphabet from scratch. They can be credited with popularizing it. And the Phoenicians were really the pioneers. They did a magnificent cultural service with their alphabet. We know that the Phoenicians were, in a word, amazing. And we know that the Phoenicians went all throughout the Mediterranean. We know that they broke across the top of Africa and down, maybe circumnavigated Africa. Maybe we're the first people from the region to break out into the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, we'll see here. It's moment of truth.
Yes.
Here's the stone.
Oh, very nice.
Barry Fell was somebody they considered to be an expert. He said,
So, all right, before we get to the big reveal here,
nobody thinks Barry Fell's an expert.
but before we even get to the big reveal,
Okay.
So what we know so far is we have a piece of sandstone, which has not been, there's no provenience for the sandstone at all. He didn't even bother doing his little fancy test on the sandstone to determine where the sandstone came from. So it could come from Wyoming, it could come pretty much anywhere in the world where sandstone exists, which is
I don't think he knows
in the world.
Use the RXF to do that.
He admits himself that this thing was altered or could have originally been written within the last 100 years. So even if this is perfect Phoenician, there's nothing to say that's, someone 100 years ago could not have written perfect Phoenician on this document. I just want to get this thought ahead before we watch this big reveal. If he goes around and turns and goes, this is absolutely Phoenician, it doesn't matter.
Bill, you need to go to your logic corner again.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's see what this guy has to say, because sometimes his experts surprise me.
Take a look at it. I love things like this. It's a great little piece. I mean, when I look at it, clearly somebody was doing something on this, right?
So you agree it's man-made?
Somebody was inscribing something on this. I mean, these are very.
I don't think anyone has doubted it's man-made.
I wanted to get an opinion of an expert today, somebody who has the benefit of new knowledge. And so I ask you, is this a legitimate Phoenician inscription?
Commercial break.
Hold up.
Hold on.
I'm back to the edge of my seat.
Oh, okay. You got a few minutes to get settled.
Oh, darn it. Hopefully I don't fall off in that time because it's very precarious.
Hey, at least you have a seat. I'm sitting on the floor.
I'm speaking to an expert in ancient languages to see if the artifact Lorene Boland found in Rock Springs, Wyoming, is the proof that's long been
Clearly
missing
he doesn't think it's too important because he's
Phoenicians
still touching
made
it with his bare
America
hands.
2,000 ago. Is this a legitimate Phoenician inscription?
I have some bad news. I would say no. I would say it's not.
What do you see that tells you that this is not Phoenician?
The Phoenician script was standardized.
Real Phoenician script, which dates to the 8th century BC, has known letters. And while Lorene Boland's inscribed rock has a few marks that could be Phoenician, the rest of it is unrecognizable.
Also, look at how they're
triangular shape,
twisted
a very
around.
clear horizontal one, but a dalet or a letter D. Okay. Very much like our letter D. I mean, a triangle, this is where we get this from. So, I mean, this is clearly something, right?
Oh, yeah.
This isn't nothing.
But it's
Somebody
pointing the wrong way.
these markings in here. The question is, what is it and what were they trying to do and at what time period? There are too many letters, though, that have no correspondence to any Phoenician character.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to deliver some bad news to Don and Patrice. But in the end, the data's the data, the results are the results, and thanks for helping me get there.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, Scott, please tell us the Phoenicians did not come to America.
Roland's good
Oh, no,
luck
they
charm
already
being
came to
an
America.
authentic
We
Phoenician
know that.
artifact, it is bad news.
The copper in
But in
Minnesota.
the case of proving how likely it is Phoenicians made it to America, I think I did get lucky.
What?
I now have more evidence than before suggesting they could have made it here and back in ancient times.
Are you looking for the evidence?
I am. Backpack in the city.
First things first.
Well, he's getting a
I told you I'd bring
beer.
the artifact
He's
back,
getting a beer this time.
I need a beer right now, I think.
and there it is.
Thank you.
I just met with a linguist, and his conclusion is this is not a genuine Phoenician artifact.
I wish it was real from that time.
Not more than me.
Little disappointed, but we know it's something. We just don't know what it is yet.
This still begs the question, could the Phoenicians have come to North America?
Doesn't beg the question.
Could they have come to Wyoming? The answer is yes.
No.
I still think
The
it's a
answer
great
is
story,
no.
and I wish that your mother was here to hear this. I'd love to meet her, and I'd like a little of that good luck, hopefully, to rub off on me. I'll tell you what, I would like to propose a toast to your mom, Lorene, and continued good luck to your family going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Cheers.
Dun, 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 dun.
Like I've always said,
No backpack.
it's only when you examine things from all
I
sides
love that you're keeping an eye out for this backpack.
I'm convinced it's entirely possible the Phoenicians, with their game-changing ability to sail the open seas, came to the New World millennia before Christopher Columbus. And I think proving it is just a matter of time. If you have a mistake,
I just,
This is like so much. Feelings don't care about your facts.
I know. It's at least I will give them this. Wow, my mascara is all over the place. At least I will give them this. They did walk the artifact back. So, but we did kind of start off with him not liking the artifact.
Yeah,
But
so he hedged himself at the beginning.
Yeah.
Basically, he was foreshadowing to prepare the audience, and this is so it gives him more credibility.
Right, exactly.
As an examiner, and any good peddler of woo needs to have some like solid, obvious negatives, so that they can show, well, that's obvious woo. So when I tell you something woo, you're more likely to believe me because I'm using logic,
Right,
and
right.
facts. It was also
And I'm being
interesting.
skeptical.
Yeah, it was also interesting how they handled the copper samples, because we never got it. We never got to the point of comparing that copper to anything else. We just examined this stone, some sort of concretion of some sort, which contained a lot of minerals, including copper minerals, which you would expect to find in the land surface there.
Yeah.
But at no point did we ever refine. I mean, is the idea that Phoenicians would only operate if the purity of the copper was at a certain percentage during their time? That may be true. I mean, I don't know Phoenician archaeology well enough to know, where they picked off of there. But
you're going under that requires the assumption that they at some point made it there in the first place to get a sample to test to figure out if they liked it, and it's the same bullshit.
Right, and you have plenty of evidence of copper use in North America. The peoples of the Americas, long before Europeans ever showed up, were using copper and trading copper throughout the country. So there's plenty of copper being used around the country. So that's sort of just that was interesting how that just got dropped. It was. It's this
I know.
It's this big piece of his argument, and then he drops it and moves on.
He
Like,
does that a lot, though. When things don't start, you can always tell when things aren't going to go the way he wanted them to go, because he just kind of leaves them out. He'll like build up this big thing and then just leave it out and completely like shade it, so that like unless you're really paying attention, you never notice that he doesn't go back to the thing that he's claiming is like, oh, this is the definitive test that will prove my theory, and it's like, yeah, hey, what about that thing? And we're rolling the credits. He does it very frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think to his detriment, I think his attempts at trying to be more scientific than other people in his genre, I'm thinking like Ancient Aliens, it's sort of a detriment to his. It's sort of why his show is sort of on the Travel Channel and not the Official History Channel, and why his show is not as popular as something like Ancient Aliens.
Right.
Because in Ancient Aliens, it's going to mention the Phoenicians, and then they're immediately going to talk about something that happened in China, and immediately talk about something that they found in South Africa, and just keep going and going and going, and never give you and give you no time whatsoever to sort of think about it or examine it. And then at the beginning of the next break, they will summarize it as if they had previously settled it all as previous facts, summarize it if it's all previous facts, and then just run for the races going forward, so that you have a nice, clean narrative to the end. It's a false narrative, but it is a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end to it.
Yes.
I think it makes the show a little sloppy is his attempts to sort of, I hate the term, but there's no other term for what he's doing a lot of the times. There is an appearance. See, I'll use some hedge words here. There is an appearance of cargo cult science going on in this show.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm always. Did I miss the smoking gun? No, you did not.
I think he was driving through it at the end with that nice little misty field he was driving through at the end of the show. I think that was the smoking gun he was driving.
That was a gun literally smoking.
Yes.
That was a pretty shot, though. So my feelings on this episode are kind of torn, because yes, it's Scott being skeptical, and he does that occasionally to be like, oh, look, I'm a real scientist, I'm skeptical. And then, but yet we're still, everything he did in the show came out negative. Like everything he tried to do to prove Phoenicians came out negative. And yet he still says, I still think Phoenicians are in America. I just haven't found the evidence yet. And it's like, that is not how science works.
And don't get me wrong, I wish there was more television with science and archaeology where the conclusions were negative, because often when we are in the field and we are testing things, our results come negative. We find an area where there's maybe a high probability that there's going to be artifacts there from either, say, here in the East Coast of the United States, from a colonial period or some pre-contact period of native tribe, because of the geography and the other artifacts in the area, and maybe even some written documentation is going to give us a hint of that. And when we go out and test it, sometimes we come up with zero, nothing. And unfortunately, I don't think we talk about that enough out there. We should talk about our negatives.
Yeah, we don't talk about our negatives at all. And I'm with you there 100%.
So I applaud him for that part. But then when he pivot, I mean, it would be the same way of going, you know what? I took this 10-acre field. We dug shovel test every 50 meters. We found 0 artifacts. However, I still believe there is a late archaic village site on this property.
I mean, 50 meters is pretty long, but
well, the next step would be then, okay, maybe the high probability in the area, we need to retest it, but there's nothing about what I tested.
Right, exactly. No, I'm even at 50 meters, if you came up completely negative, there's no real good reason to go back.
Because as we all know in archaeology, you can do all sorts of testing and be wrong. We can be wrong.
Sure.
We could have thoroughly tested every hole every 10 feet. And then someone comes in with a bulldozer and finds artifacts. That happens. But you can't definitively say there's something there, even though I've never found anything there.
It's just, yeah.
I can say there's the probability based upon these other data I have that there could be something here. But I'm not going to definitively say there's something there, especially when all I have to support it is negative data.
Yeah, he's a big proponent of the whole absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Like he takes that to heart, not realizing, and I always say this when I bring up this quote, Sagan was being sarcastic when he said that. Like he didn't actually mean that. But yeah, the alternative archaeology, the fringe, they love to run with that idea, and you see it for them. Finding no evidence actually sometimes is even better than finding actual evidence, because it just means it's like persecution complex. It's like, persecute me more, and it's just like, oh, okay.
No, it goes along with sort of my watch. Like I said, I set myself up by watching some Ancient Aliens last night, and there's definitely an ideology at place. Definitely an ideology at place of otherness, sort of like your most recent article on Archeo Fantasies, sort of the underlying undertones of racism, which goes through the entire field.
Right.
It's not necessarily, and it's not the racism of the individuals involved. It's the undercoding from this. It's just where it begins. When you go to, a lot of this is sort of rehashed. There are, like is it Jeb who likes to use the term? Jeb Carr likes to use the term neo-Victorians to describe the people. These are neo-Victorians, and if Victorians were nothing else, they were racist as hell. They were the inventors. We're literally doing race science.
Oh yeah, no.
So when that's the core, that's the baked in solid basis of your discussion, it's going to permeate and stink everything else above it. Even if you are coming into it with good faith, you are picking up a bad faith idea with some very toxic undercoats and trying to live into that world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the issue. Like that was kind of what I was trying to get at in that article, is just like the issue isn't that they don't mention Black, white, Native American, Asian, or whatever. The problem is that the underlying premise is these people were not capable of doing X, therefore it must be superior race, who is almost always some kind of white derivative, some kind of European white derivative. And that's the racist part. Even the Phoenicians, somebody else wrote an article about how the identity of Greek and Roman ancestry and the Phoenicians, the Minoans, get thrown into that, even though they weren't white. But they're clumped into that European white group, so people will.
It's part of the Western civilization. It's a cherry pick. It's a cherry picking of the Western civilization narrative. The Phoenicians as a Semitic people, there's a root within sort of the Jews and the other people of the Levant region right there. They're very heavily spoken of within biblical text. So that gives them their whiteness for the purpose of these narratives, because they are part of the groups discussed in the Bible. Right. So that gives them honorary whiteness for purposes of those discussions.
Right, exactly. And it's that need to be identified with those groups. It's like the Solutrean thing. People, you'll see this on not alt-right, but who are the straight up racist peoples? Anyway, you'll see it on people's Instagrams and in their bios and stuff. They'll have like their genetic breakdown, and the closer they are to the Solutrean, like the Solutrean are actual people, if you didn't know, and well, they were, but they are considered white, even though they're not. It's just really important to certain people to be able to trace history back to white roots, even if those roots have to be bleached to make them white. it's just really important to some people to not give credit to natives and natives of any group. Like, it's not just America that gets this shit dumped on them. And there's most of the countries around the world that are Europeanly influenced or Western influenced have this problem, and including like India and that kind of stuff, which surprises the hell out of me.
But I mean, even if whiteness itself is an invention of the last 300 years, it doesn't exist prior to that, at least in the context that we use it. There's no way people of the regions these people are claiming of a single sort of a solid ethnic group would ever consider them to be the same people.
Right.
People of a northern, what would call the Scandinavia area, would believe they have nothing at all to do with any of the people from the Mediterranean.
Right.
They're different peoples entirely.
Right, but we in the same way that they, like Walter and his ilk, clump all Native Americans together, like all Native Americans. I'm impressed that he even said Shoshone in the show, because usually he just says Native American, but he has made an effort this season to name the tribes of the people that he's going to go see or speak with a few times that he has done so, which is kind of impressive to me. I mean, it's a progressive step forward, but in the same way that he just lumps them all together, usually he does the same thing with the European cultures and the European groups and that kind of the Mediterranean groups. They're Mediterranean people. They're not individual groups and different culture groups and city states. They're all one group of people as far as Walter and even Hancock are concerned. And the only reason I'm harping on them is because that's what I'm exposed to right now. So I'm sure when I start reading another book, I'll start harping on someone else.
So yeah, no, you got me started on that. I picked up Magicians of the Gods. I got that from a library. So I'm not gonna pay Hancock money for his book. I picked up Magicians of the Library, so I started reading that. I'm in the preface, and I'm working, banging my head. We have a map that might show Antarctica, that might show islands that are now covered under ice. Obviously, this map was drawn 3 million years ago.
Yeah.
What? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, and that's also the problem with the map we're looking at here, like the map used in the show.
The Ptolemy map, yeah.
It's a 15th century map, allegedly based upon a map 1,000 years earlier, with 1,000 years of interpretation. Who knows what else has occurred since then? And the main thrust of that is that the islands in the position off the west coast of Africa, which actually do exist, were ignored. And islands that are like 5,000 miles to the west were put into its place instead.
Yeah.
None of the other mainlands from that land that far were put there, just the outer Antilles.
Islands, yeah. They never went anywhere past those islands.
So the Canary Islands make sense, and they're in the right spot for the Canary Islands. The Eastern Antilles, and it's a weird... And I get this, and I've seen watching your stuff. You try so hard to give everyone a sort of a benefit of doubt, a good faith type of thing on this, but when you start seeing these things, sort of the way these arguments are placed together, it doesn't really seem there's good faith going on here.
No, and that's why I feel sorry for the experts that he drags onto his show. Like I wish I could sit down and interview people that have been on Walter's show after the fact, like the professionals. Not, and I have talked to some of the people who would fall into the fringe group, and they're not happy with the way they're portrayed on the show usually either. So I feel sorry for them, because you could clearly see when he was speaking with the woman with the maps how edited that was. He just straight cut her off in the middle of a sentence at one point, like not speaking, like they cut what she said after a certain point.
Right.
And I'm sure it's because she went on a very similar explanation that you just gave, and they didn't want that in the show.
But she is still the hero of the episode as far as I'm concerned. She got to throw in the little shade of like, Ptolemy manipulated his data to fit his theory.
She got him good, yeah.
And just left it out there like,
And they just went like, good stuff. All right.
All right.
Bill, thank you very much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. You might want to come back next week. This was a lot more fun than watching it myself and just screaming into an empty room. So
if I'm available, I would definitely love more to do this. It's like I said, it's been a while since I like stepped back into the world of watching this kind of stuff. So it's interesting, and maybe next time there'll be day drinking.
Day drinking. It's only noon. Apparently, our Welsh watcher was like, "It's fine, keep drinking."
Now, to be fair, this didn't make me want to day drink as much as watching an episode of Ancient Aliens.
Yeah,
Ancient Aliens would be like there'd be a fifth something sitting right here.
Ancient Aliens makes me want to drink, and I don't drink, so like that's pretty hardcore. I've been tempted to go. Like I was telling you this last time that I want to watch the first season of Ancient Aliens, which is only actually 6 episodes, and then I want to watch the most recent episode of season of Ancient Aliens and just kind of compare the two, because I suspect it's just rehashing, but I don't have the wherewithal right now to do that, and it's not part of my thesis right now. So
no, and I believe for your mental health, that's something similar to this. Maybe even just more than me. Maybe we get a group. Maybe that's for a future episode of Still Digging or something. We get the entire group together to watch.
Oh my god!
Share the pain.
We really could do an episode of Drunken Archaeology.
We can share the pain on that.
All right, man. Thank you for being on this. I'm gonna let people go because it's 1:30 now. So we've been on for like an hour and a half.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.